we are seeing some intercepts on the other end of me here. I'm going to see, yep, Byron, if you can get off the tripod there. You can see some of these interceptor missiles, it seems, going into the air right now, into the sky. I can see at least 3 of them right now. We're facing, the camera's now facing south. So you can see 4. We're seeing a 5th one in the air. And these appear to be, this is very similar to what we saw in April. I was in Jerusalem at the time, and we could see these various interceptors lighting up the night sky as they headed to intercept those various missiles and drones.
Jeremy, while you're seeing that in northern Israel, we want to go back to Jim Sciutto in Tel Aviv, who is seeing something similar. Jim.
Dana, we're seeing them coming from multiple directions here. To my left, which is just to the north, and to my right, to the south. They're over our head. I've counted at least half a dozen of them at this point. We're seeing them rising. I have yet to see them strike a target, or at least I haven't seen, well, actually now over here, I do see a projectile falling to the ground. I think my team probably sees it as well on the right-hand side. If you direct it over there, in fact, you see the flash just out of camera there. They're easy to see on the way up, Dana. They follow a regular speed and pace and trajectory. When they come down, and this is the one coming down here, I believe, they come down a little bit more erratically, and you could see it looks to be in more than one piece. That indicates to me that those are fragments of an incoming projectile that was hit, falling. And again, keep in mind, this is a big city, and there goes the air raid sirens again. Where that fragment just fell is still in a densely populated part of the city. So even if you strike a missile before it's able to hit the target, those fragments themselves and the fragments of the intercept missiles themselves also can have an impact and can be dangerous. Look at it now. It's practically like fireflies over the city of Tel Aviv.
I mean, you can see.
Right now I'm counting, Dana, at least a dozen in the air at one time.
This is a major attack.
I think
Jim Sciutto, this is obviously
it's a major attack. There's no question.
What you are seeing, what we are all seeing with our own eyes, is a major attack from Iran.
It's a major attack, Dana, and it's an escalation. It's an escalation of this war beyond what we saw. I think potentially beyond what we saw in April, when Iran launched dozens of missiles and drones. This attack, according to U.S. intelligence, principally or perhaps entirely ballistic missiles, which are the fastest by far and the most dangerous. And now what we're seeing, in addition to those intercepts, is we're seeing fragments falling to the ground. It's like a deadly fireworks display over Tel Aviv. Goodness, there was an impact just to the left of us here.
And you're talking about Tel Aviv, Jim. We are looking at pictures right now. We are looking at pictures of Tel Aviv, what you're describing.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here.
Please do, Jim. Please do.
They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
Jim, please take cover. We are listening and we are watching. Sarah, I'm going to go to Jeremy Diamond in northern Israel. Jeremy?
Dana, from our vantage point in northern Israel, facing south, we have been able to see dozens of these apparent intercepts happening in the night sky above us. We have seen, we saw those intercept missiles going up in the air, and now we are seeing, as you're seeing one on our screen right now, coming down. They almost look like, fireworks that are breaking up or shooting stars of some sort. What I was also able to see earlier was explosions, and I had seen videos of these explosions previously. It is often that Arrow defense system that intercepts ballistic missiles in the first layers of space, and it creates a kind of explosion that looks, I don't know how else to say it other than it looks almost like a jellyfish of sorts. And that is coming from those intercepts that happen in the first layers of space by the Arrow missile defense system, and I saw multiple of those happening just now. We know, of course, that the threat from Iran tonight was anticipated to be those ballistic missiles that fly at hypersonic speeds and that often fly at very high altitudes before coming down on their targets, and that's why Israel has that Arrow missile defense system in addition to the Iron Dome, which we have heard so much about. But we have been witnessing dozens potentially of missiles and intercepts happening in the sky above us. It's hard for us to tell exactly how close it is, but as we know, many of the targets that we anticipated from talking to Israeli and American officials was going to be targets in central Israel as well as in southern Israel. And now, of course, we are waiting to see if any of those missiles hit their targets. But of course, beyond that, the debris from some of these intercepts could also potentially be very damaging, very destructive, and very deadly, of course. So we will be monitoring very closely reports in the coming minutes and hours to see what the actual impact of those missiles are on the ground.
All right, Dana, we're on the roof. To be clear, we went into the shelter. We went into the shelter in between the air raid sirens. We've come out again because this is the second round of air raid sirens we've seen. And if you look over here in the distance, you're seeing where the intercepts are going up into the sky. And it would be, just to be clear, from that direction from the east. And again, listen, this gives you a sense of the air defenses all around Tel Aviv, multiple layers. And this up further in the sky where I'm pointing here, that's the altitude where they're making impacts. We saw multiple impacts on the first barrage, and some of those fragments or missiles themselves hit not far from the hotel, I want to say, perhaps, and now we're seeing what they're attempting to intercept in the sky. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my team off the roof again to go back into the shelter because they're getting close, and when these come down, they can come close to us. Guys, let's go back into the shelter.
Please.
We'll check in once it's safe again.
Please, thank you, Jim. I want to go to Alex Marquardt, who is also doing reporting and talking to his sources about the potential impact of what we are seeing. Obviously, it is still ongoing, Alex.
Well, Dana, the whole question since the death of the killing of Nasrallah by Israel last week was when and how Iran would respond. And now, of course, we are seeing that response. So what we're trying to get at is really the scale of this response, particularly when it compares to what we saw back on April 13th, when more than 300 missiles and drones were fired at Israel, frankly, without much impact. And the reason that there was not much impact was because of this U.S.-led coalition that helped the Israeli forces to defend their skies. And there really was not that much damage or destruction. So what we're seeing now is a significant amount of activity in the air. We may also be seeing impacts on the ground. So that will certainly play into what the Israeli response would be. But there is a lot of fog of war right now. We really need to figure out what exactly is being fired at Israel and what those strikes are going to entail in terms of damage. But then there's the question about the defense of Israel. The U.S. has been preparing for this kind of scenario for quite some time. You remember a couple of months ago, after the killing of the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Israel and the U.S. were then expecting an Iranian response that frankly never came. So there has been this framework in place that we're now seeing being put into action to defend Israel. Dana?
I'm going to go back to Jim Sciutto in Tel Aviv. What about that, the notion of the military targets being potentially hit in Israel? Does that comport with what you're hearing, and most importantly, what you're seeing?
Dana, prior to the start of the attack, the U.S. intel read was that the targets among the targets, I should say, for Iran were air bases, 2 air bases, but also the Mossad headquarters, which is in the northern part of Tel Aviv here. There's no question that Tel Aviv is under attack because the number of intercepts we're seeing speaks to this being a target. Whether Mossad is the only target in Tel Aviv or if it is indeed is one of the targets, we don't know yet. I will tell you, I did see impacts. I saw 2 impacts quite close to the hotel here, and I saw another one further north of here, I might guess a couple miles, where I did see some fire and explosion. Again, so it is often difficult to determine in the midst of a heavy barrage like this one what is hitting the ground, actually. Is it a fragment of the missile that was fired? Is it fragments of the air defense intercept missiles that went up, or both of those things? We'll know more over time, but there's no question that projectiles are hitting Tel Aviv right now.